Hey guys, it's me, I'm Jim. I'm back with a new set, new UFC gloves, and a brand new epic MMA fight prediction video for arguably the best light heavyweight title matchup you can put together in the post-Johnny Bones Jones era, with a newly crowned UFC Light Heavyweight Champion Daniel DC Cormier takes on the #2 Light Heavyweight contender in the Swede, the Mauler, Alexander Gustafsson, at UFC 192. And what is to be an action-packed war of attrition between two of the best light heavyweights on the planet today. I will give you guys a short fight profile, as well as a full fight breakdown of the two fighters and who I'm ultimately winning and walking away with the coveted UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. Now, without further ado, let's get some Cormier-Gustafsson. Here we go. Earlier this year, the spotlight was on Daniel Cormier. It was his time to shine at UFC 182 against his arch rival and nemesis, Johnny Bones Jones, the reigning and defending light heavyweight champion at the time. He was supposed to go in there, dominate, and break Bones and become the new UFC light heavyweight champion. However, Daniel Cormier finally met his match against Jones, because while he had been searching for the man that is his equal for the longest time, he instead fought the man that is his better. Plain and simple. Jon Jones outstruck Daniel Cormier. He out-wrestled Daniel Cormier, most importantly, 4 takedowns to 1, as well as had more time in control in the clinch against Daniel Cormier wearing on him. Ultimately, when we look at everything and judge it all as a whole, beat Daniel Cormier at his own game to take the unanimous decision, hand him his very first loss, retain his championship. Besides that, make Daniel Cormier cry like a little bitch. That said, that wouldn't be the end of Daniel Cormier's pursuit for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship, since Jon Jones, the longest reigning UFC Light Heavyweight Champion, greatest fighter of our generation today, was stripped of the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship due to his legal problems. Daniel Cormier was inserted into the UFC 187 main event opposite of the resurgent Anthony Johnson, who's been on a hell of a win streak, dominating Phil Davis, knocking out Nogueira, KOing Alexander Gustafsson. And when the bout got underway, Daniel Cormier had to overcome adversity to take the Light Heavyweight Championship, because he had to survive an early scare when he got knocked down with that overhand right by AJ, by having the resiliency to get right back up to his feet and go on to dominate the grappling exchanges in the first round, while AJ got the better of him in the stand-up exchanges. A very close round. However, with AJ having terrible cardio and even a worse ground game, Daniel Cormier was able to take the next 2 rounds away from him with his wrestling and top control, to impose his will, to smash AJ on the ground, and eventually submit him in the 3rd round via Anthony Johnson's kryptonite, the rear naked choke, to claim the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship, thus becoming the man at 205. And now, in his first title defense, it won't be against Ryan Bader, the person who most likely deserves the title shot because he's the only one on a 4-fight winning streak, and, you know, him and DC have heat. But no, they instead went with Alexander Gustafsson to be Daniel Cormier's opponent at UFC 192, the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship, because he's far more sellable to the public in terms of tickets and pay-per-view than Ryan Bader is. Besides that, he can be competitive with Daniel Cormier, given to what he was able to do against Jon Jones. Let's not forget, he came the closest that anybody has ever come to defeating Jon Jones inside the octagon. And the reason why he busted Jon up, he really made Jon dig down deep to get that victory. a feat in itself that Daniel Cormier can't lay claim to. And yes, it's valid that Alexander Gustafsson got knocked out by Anthony Johnson in January at UFC on Fox Sweden in front of 30,000 Swedish fans. But that was then. This is now. Alex will make the same mistake twice, and he's hungry and he's ready to grab and seize the UFC Lightheavyweight Championship. Although I think Cormier is not going to go along quietly. Cormier plans on retaining his championship and beating Alexander Gustafsson in much more impressive fashion than Jon Jones or Anthony Johnson, and walk over Gustafsson's corpse. Anyways, as far as who's going to win this fight, that'll be coming up next when we break it down, baby. Now our little tale of the tape here between the two best active light heavyweights in the world today. I have to say, Alexander Gustafsson is most definitely the tallest opponent Daniel Cormier has ever faced. He is 6'5". Daniel was 5'11", 6 inches difference there. Alex has a 79-inch reach to Daniel's 71-inch reach, and he takes an 8-inch reach advantage as well. When it comes to the cardio, I'm leaning towards Gustafsson, since he is more acclimated to the weight class. He's been competing at light heavyweight a lot longer than Daniel Cormier, and when he went 5 rounds with Jon Jones, he was able to stay competitive with him till the end. Whereas Daniel Cormier has fought in 2 5-round fights. When he fought against Josh Barnett at heavyweight, that was a walk in the park for him. But when he fought against Jon Jones at light heavyweight, it was a different ball game. It was because he was game for 3 rounds and then faded in the championship rounds. In addition to that, in his last fight against Rumble Johnson, even though he won a lopsided fight, he was exhausted by the 3rd round. Therefore, if we consider his performances in those bouts in comparison to when he was competing against the elite heavyweight, it's clear to see that this weight cut and step up elite competition at this weight class is heavily affecting his cardio. Now look, it's one thing for him to flawlessly defeat a overrated douchebag like Pat Cummings, or some 50-year-old, washed up, bloated up middleweight in former champion Dan Hendo Henderson in impressive fashion. But it's quite another when he has to face the best of the best at 205 versus the competition he faced at heavyweight, where he was able to overwhelm and dominate his opponents with a lot more ease than he is at this weight class, because it's a different ball game. These guys are more talented, they're more athletic, they're more agile, and in some cases they're younger, faster, as well as better conditioned. Additionally, it can take him to places that he doesn't really go to in competition other than in training with Cain Velasquez. Beyond that, another point of interest is this new IV ban program that's going to take effect by the time he fights Gustafsson, which bars all UFC fighters from rehydrating to their walk-around weight with IVs after they make weight. Bottom line, I know this is going to affect Gustafsson too, to a certain extent, but not as much as Daniel Cormier, because Daniel Cormier cuts a lot more weight to make light heavyweight than Alexander Gustafsson does. Thus, for that reason, if he doesn't find an alternative, make the necessary adjustments, and this fight turns into a firefight with Gustafsson like it was when Jones fought Gus, then Daniel Cormier is in a world of trouble and will wilt against the Swedish Mauler. That's for sure. Now, let's move on to the real meat of this fight prediction, the skills. From a standard perspective, both guys are finishers. They have nasty ground and pound and KO power. But that's basically where the similarities end. And here's where the differences come into play. Alexander Gustafsson is much faster than Daniel Cormier, with much better footwork. Along with that, his boxing technique is sharper and more technical, with his expert use of throwing in criss combinations in unison with his feints. On the contrary, Daniel Cormier has the more diverse kickboxing game. However, he's an infighter. Unlike most of Daniel's opponents, he will not fight Daniel Cormier at close range. He will instead opt to use his superior reach advantage to keep Cormier at a distance and attack him from long range. In addition to that, he's well versed at combating and negating kickboxers into playing his game, such as what he did with Cyril Diabate, Shogun Rua. Furthermore, if you think Cormier's striking to wrestling routine is going to be able to change the course of the stand-up into his favor, you got another thing coming. Let's not forget, he was able to keep Jones off balance when he was trying to do that. So Alexander Gustafsson has the advantage in the stand-up department, without a doubt. Now, pressing forward to the wrestling. Daniel Cormier is a decorated amateur wrestler. He's an Olympic bronze medalist. He has been one of the finest wrestlers to transition to mixed martial arts. Furthermore, in Daniel Cormier's defense, he's been able to take down every single opponent that he has faced whenever the hell he wanted to. That is until he faced Jon Jones, who out-wrestled him 4 takedowns to 1. Along with that, in his last fight against Anthony Johnson, he got 2 takedowns despite that. Johnson, even though he was exhausted, was still able to fight off the vast majority of them, and even managed to get Cormier down to the mat when he tired in the 3rd. Nevertheless, rest assured, his wrestling better be sharp as hell when he tangles with Alexander Gustafsson, since Gustafsson's wrestling defense has been shored up, as seen when he fought Jon Jones. He was able to stop every single one of Jon's takedown attempts except for the 10th one that Jon went for in the 5th round. In addition to that, his offensive wrestling is very good also. He was able to take down Cyril Diabate, Shogun Rua multiple times, as well as he was the very first man to take Jones down in his MMA career, and he did it more effortlessly than Daniel Cormier, who really had to struggle to get that single takedown on Jones. However, do I see Gustafsson taking down Cormier that easy? No. Despite all of that, though, I'm still leaning towards Daniel Cormier in the wrestling department due to his experience and skill set, although it won't be a cakewalk for him, because Gus is not that easy to get down anymore, nor is he easy to hold up in the clinch, because he's a very good escape artist, and he's very good to get back up to his feet, even if Daniel gets him down. Last but not least, for the jiu-jitsu aspect of this fight, Daniel Cormier is a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Alexander Gustafsson is a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Both guys have 3 legit submission victories to their credit, and all of them by way of rear naked choke. Nonetheless, even though Alexander Gustafsson was submitted by Phil Davis several years ago, he's made the necessary adjustments since then, and one thing is for sure, his ground game is much better than Anthony Rumble Johnson's. That's for sure. Moreover, given that both Gustafsson and Daniel Cormier have good enough submission defense to counteract the other's jiu-jitsu, it'll be a draw and won't be the deciding factor in this fight unless one can successfully weaken their opponent enough to lock in a fight-ending submission. Now here's the moment you've all been waiting for. The fight game plans. Come fight night at UFC 192, Daniel Cormier, no-brainer, is going to evade and slip past Alexander Gustafsson strikes to close the distance and fight a close-range battle against Alexander Gustafsson. And once he's inside, he's going to look to tear him up to the body with body hooks, body kicks, knees to the liver, and further take away his base with low roundhouse kicks. When Gustafsson is looking to slip away and stick and move, kick him low with a roundhouse and then go high for a high kick to catch him on the exit. Then, impose your will, press him against the cage, in the clinch, implement some dirty boxing in conjunction with them foot stomps, and once it's broken up, keep Alex guessing further by changing the direction of which you're trying to take him down. And then once he's busy figuring out how he's going to counter, drag his ass to the mat, control the positioning to make sure he can't get back up to his feet. Advance, ground and pound to bust him up, cut him up, take the back, sink in that rear naked choke, apply the pressure till he submits, retain the championship, stamp his passport, and send his ass back to school. That would be the best case scenario for Daniel Cormier and all you DC nuthuggers. Unfortunately, with Alex's game plan of picking him apart from the outside, using his superior speed and footwork and boxing technique to be 4 or 5 combinations ahead of him at all times, as well as block his high kicks and check his low kicks, thwart his takedowns, make him pay for each and every attempt and miss, escape from his clinch. Likewise, even if Daniel Cormier takes Gustafsson down, he will work his way back up to his feet and continue the onslaught of sticking and moving, penetrating Daniel's armor, in particular with his jabs to the body and to the head, a front kick, square on the chin for good measure, and only getting in close to throw mid-range attacks on Daniel Cormier when the advantage is in his favor, and get out when danger is approaching. And once Daniel runs out of gas, back him into a corner, lay in the barrage, work him up, work him down, put in the finishing touches to score the TKO victory. Or he's going to take the decision based on points, damage, and defense in order to bring the UFC Lightheavyweight Championship back to Sweden. So for my official prediction, Alexander Gustafsson upsets Daniel Cormier, becomes the new UFC Lightheavyweight Champion, and that's all there is to it. I know a lot of you think I'm crazy for picking Alexander Gustafsson over Cormier at this stage of their careers right now, but I think it will all make sense to you once Alex proves to the world he has the skill set and conditioning to humanize DC and batter him to walk away with that UFC Lightheavyweight Championship around his fucking waist. And then from there, he's likely to go toe-to-toe with Anthony Johnson one more time in a revenge match, should Anthony Johnson come out victorious with another splendid KO victory over Jimmy Mauler. Or who knows, if Jon Jones is able to get his legal situation settled, we could have a blockbuster match with Gus versus Jones 2. For Daniel Cormier, work his way back up the ladder, or skip off back up to heavyweight. Now this will do it for this fight prediction video. I will see you guys for the next one, which could be Jose Aldo versus Conor McGregor, or Chris Weidman versus Luke Rockhold. I'm Jim, I'm signing off. See you next time.